So now we will get back on track here with,
Oops, sorry.
okay. So this is an interesting work. It's a collage made from checks.
Some checks. Yeah, you may have to zoom in on that one a little bit at some point.
Yeah.
Do we have Damon?
So yeah, this is Damon Arjos, and this is called Cervidae, and it's in parentheses collage number 2. Spreaded checks on paper. So maybe we could go ahead and,
Do you want me to start?
sure.
Okay. The word Cervidae describes the large family of even-toed hoofed mammals that possess deciduous antlers. Members of the order of Artiodactyla. I'm going to butcher that one. These animals include deer, elk, moose, and the like. Deer have long appeared in art, such as the Paleolithic cave paintings, and are predominantly featured in mythology, religion, and literature. Since the Middle Ages, deer hunting has offered humans staples of sustenance in the form of venison, buckskin, and antlers. With Cervidae, I explore gender and sexual identity via the image of a so-called trophy buck, one that for me represents pride, strength, and honesty. By repeating this form, I am reenacting and contemplating creating insights for my own actions, in many cases, those influenced by the comments and beliefs of others. In addition, as I produce the work, I am imagining how I might have affirmed myself despite these expectations.
So what do you think is the reason for the checks? Is it just a different form of currency that we have today? Maybe with,
Well, I saw it, I think, as the trophy idea and the money and the trophy kind of talking to each other.
okay.
I wasn't reading into it as much the sustenance, although you do have the food that you get with money, as
Right.
well as the deer that you can eat
Yeah.
for sustenance. But I like that as well.
You can buy a blanket, or you can harvest a deer and
Yeah.
you have a pelt. So maybe that might be the connection.
I liked all the different plays that it had together, coinciding. And then I just liked the craft of it, how he made that come together, and
Yeah.
all the little tiny strips of paper. And
You definitely don't see it as checks that are cut until the second look.
mhm.
And it's interesting how you can juxtapose so very uh, different things as canceled checks and deer all in one piece.
Mhm.
It's a big breach.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next work is Michelangelo
Oh, is this a relation to
Giaquinto.
Michael? I didn't even catch that.
Yeah, Michael Giaquinto, or his full name is Michelangelo Giaquinto.
Well, I did not know.
And let's see. So I don't think he is zooming in.
Oh, that's too bad.
Um, but I have his statements here. And
Well, as you know, this was a blind jury, so I didn't even know that that was him. And I have seen works of his in the past that we've shown at the gallery that were unrelated to this, but really nice. I love this piece.
yeah, um, the the title of this is Notes and Thoughts. It's part of a 3-part series I made as a result of making notes in my sketchbooks. This came to me not as a series, but one statement, and then the others followed. I first used cold coffee to tone my paper, and as the paper was drying, I made the ink drawings using India ink. The two mediums together made the art. The idea of mounting the pages on coasters and then mounting the coasters on stretched canvas was a proper progression. And then Michael has just a general statement of this unusual time. Using this time, I was given unexpectedly awakened a large volume of my ideas and thoughts to my art life. This time was a gift. Creating was a pleasure. I had a new outlook on my studio and on my direction to create. The insight for me was not to take the time for granted, but for growth personally and artistically.
I like that.
Yeah.
I personally chose it, I think, more along the lines of the materials and the dance that plays between one to the next. I love the choices of the coasters and the choices of how he even mounted the papers. So it just sort of feels like it all kind of happened on its own, just landed there. And the artist was more of the orchestra, the piece was the orchestra and he was a conductor.
It's it's like a show of faith in the process
Mm-hmm.
where I can just envision the idea of using coffee to stain the paper and just taking it one step at a time, not knowing what the final result's going to be,
Mm-hmm.
and then what's nearby is you know the ink, but then also the coasters that would probably be on the coffee table,
Right.
and just letting it happen,
Yeah. Letting the ink go and play and
right? And just
dance and move. I like that.
knowing that your aesthetic choices are valid
Mm-hmm.
and letting them build upon themselves. And we know that is true about Michael. So
Nice. Go, Michael.
great. Thank you, Michael. Okay. This
We
work.
have Marcus.
Yeah. We have Marcus Vicinio. Is he with us today? Well, I did speak with Marcus. This title is actually the longitude and latitude of a surveillance camera. And that's the title is 48.2946856, comma, negative 113.2414781. And with that information, you can find out exactly where this is.
Well, start with this. If he pops in, we can switch over. In our increasingly intrusive electronic culture, how do we delineate the boundaries between public and private? No Man's Land, Views from a Surveillance State, is a body of work that interrogates how surveillance technology has changed our relationship to and understanding of landscape and place. These landscape photographs act as a larger metaphor for the totalizing vision of the global surveillance state. To produce this work, I hack into surveillance cameras and CCTV feeds in pursuit of the classical, picturesque landscape and the sublime. The resulting visual product becomes dislocated from its automated origins and leads to an investigation of land, of borders, and power. The very act of surveying a site through these photographic systems implies a dominating relationship between man and nature. Ultimately, I hope to undermine these schemes of social control through these photographs, found while exploiting the technological mechanisms of power in our surveillance society.
So it says it's an archival pigment print on a still life. So
On
it
a
looks
still life?
it says on a, oh, sorry, print of a still from a surveillance
Yes.
camera. Yeah, so there's, I guess, the actual print and then a print on top of the print. Is that right?
Um, no, I think he's just saying it's an archival pigment print
Okay, I see.
of the still. Yeah, so he took the file, I would assume, from the computer or from the television screen. He said he was hacking in, so I'm guessing he got it from the inside and
Oh,
then
right.
printed that out. So it might be in between two shots if it's changing from one scene to the next. You know, the surveillance cameras change their
Right.
perspective. That's sort of what I felt about it, was it had all these layers of a vision of seeing one thing, seeing the other thing, having the I don't know, the roughness because of the low quality of, the actual camera. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's just a surveillance camera. You don't need to know exactly what it looks like. You just need to know forms, basically. So I love that. It almost felt like a drawing to me rather than a photograph.
It does have a lot of painterly qualities, and that's almost as if he's landing on Mars or on the surface of another planet.
Right. It
And
has that feeling of like the Diana cameras from whenever ago, those plastic lens ones, which you don't know exactly what you're going to get.
right,
And then he puts it in this is an interesting way to frame it, where you sort of are looking out the window at it, kind of thing. So it's not made like an art photograph with a big mat and all of that. It's about that, which I like. And there's definitely a cold feeling to it.
yeah, it's very stark.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this next work is a large encaustic. Let's see, it's by Catherine Eaton Skinner. And
Winter coat.
I'll read her statement. Our cultural memory lives within the physicality of place as we continue to find ways to understand and connect to our environment and each other. People use many marking methods to indicate their presence and a deeper relationship to place and nature. My work centers on the balance of opposites and patterning in order to order our complicated world. The work encompasses repetition and multiplicity, moving from the simplicity of tantric forms to the complexity of grids. Red represents the Earth's powerful uh, key lines of the axis and the Mundi connection energy. I'm not sure exactly what a Mundi connecting energy is, but between the Earth and the sky. All of these are reminders. We are linked to the Earth. We are to cherish the clean water that ensures our survival. We look with our souls upward to the sky and light. Corvids and ravens grasp the essential pattern from whence all things proceeded. I guess those are the birds.
Mm-hmm.
Trees become the meeting point of all directions. The omphalos, navel, the world's point of beginning. Is that
Yeah,
what?
it felt to me like it had, I don't know, it had something in between abstraction and landscape in formal quality. So you had these boxes and parts that were almost collaged in, even though it was one solid thing. And partially I think the encaustic will make it have that kind of uniform feel. But it was really interesting in that, in the shape of it being just very landscape, but also having that the breakout boxes. I really like that push-pull between the landscape and the abstraction.
Yeah, the encaustic has this layered quality that in the translucence that really make it almost three-dimensional. And I know they're very difficult to manipulate. And it seems like she really has a great sense of how to do the manipulation on this big scale. I've never seen an encaustic quite this large that is so representational.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, and it has that feeling of everything being preserved into the wax in a way, like a description of all of the things she was thinking of integrated into the wax.
windows within windows
Yep.
within windows. And then you have the the century birds that sit on top of the dead pine trees. So a lot of meaning in there.
Yep.
Okay, so moving to next one, we have Richard Pollock. Is top one.
Looks like we have Richard.
Great.
There he is.
Hello, Richard. I think we can hear you.
Richard, can you unmute?
Give him a second or two. He's just zooming in. We're all becoming familiar, or
With the Zoom.
yeah, trying to become
A word
familiar.
nobody knew a year and a half ago.
Well, while you try to unmute yourself, Richard, I can read your short statement because we can't hear you quite yet.
Richard, you are unmuted on our control board here. Maybe turn your
Oh,
volume up.
hmm.
No, I still can't
It's
hear you.
nice to be able to see you.
Yeah, I want to see what's happening in the back there.
Yeah. um, We'll let you know if we can hear you, but for now we can't. But Richard Pollock says, these are my current fresco series of people studies. The modern frescoes are done by first applying lime-based fresco plaster on primed MDF board. Then acrylic colors are compressed into the damp plaster with stainless steel blades. By pressure, the colors and plaster become integrated. So that's the method, but I know a little bit of the madness behind the method. Richard has told me that he does plastering in Boston, architectural
Oh, nice.
and restoration,
Okay.
and that as an extension of his mastery of the architectural plastering, he discovered these fresco techniques, and they're really incredible to see in person because there's
They are. There's such a quality of
Yeah.
texture and almost chalky, like the plaster.
right, there's shiny silica bits and pieces
Mhm.
in there, and he also mentioned that since he's working in Boston, he's surrounded by these the street scenes, and so this whole series has been inspired by his immersion in working in the public, and
And even the way he framed it, it feels like a fresco from the wall that you've taken out of the wall. Like it's a
right,
piece of the wall. But I loved the figures on the one side. You know, you could feel the cold, you can feel them huddling together for warmth, and then this total explosion of abstraction or snow or splash or whatever's happening on the right, that they don't even seem to be that bothered by. They're more concerned with just keeping the clothes closed,
keeping
and
warm.
keeping warm, keeping together. So I really liked that aspect of it.
Yeah, it looks like the person on the left might have a seeing stick
Mhm.
to help them guide themselves. But yeah, the contrast of the complete abstraction on the right and the representational without, without conflict, I
Yep.
guess is what's so surprising.
Well, and you have in the color, you have sort of the repetition of the purple, the lavender, and the pink throughout, and the green, and then everything else is really just black and white. And it just has that sort of stark, cold city Boston kind of feel to it, you know.
Did we capture it, Richard? Thumbs up? Well,
Well, sorry we didn't get to hear you.
yeah, we really do appreciate your approach to your artwork because it's very sensitive and compelling. So
Thank you for joining.
So see if we can get this in focus.
Yep.
Hello.
Oh,
Stephen.
Hi there.
hi. Where are you?
Right now, I'm in the Wilmington, North Carolina area. I'm a Los Angeles artist, and I'm in the North Carolina area helping my family with a few things, and still making art here in a studio I have in the Wilmington area.
Nice.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Can you
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about Whiteout?
Whiteout, the title sort of alludes to the zero visibility weather conditions of sort of the Arctic and polar regions, and also the unconscious state that recreational drug users often enter to sort of, escape their existential dilemmas. But it really is more about, it's more of an allegory about the comprehensive vision that we lose when, we're sort of steeped in the news of dominant leadership and politics and all of these things, and it kind of loosens our self-identity. So I thought, well, this is kind of obviously if you saw this and you didn't know the title, that those things might not come to mind, but I do think titles are pretty important. But formally the white on white interplay between the Corian, which is traditionally a countertop material on the top, and the MDF that's lacquer painted, which is traditionally a sort of an inexpensive, we'll say, material used in cabinetry. I sort of like the subtle distinctions between the colors and the depth. I like that it sort of floats off of the wall just a little bit to tell you that it's an object, but it's still, it's in some ways there's a play between its value as a 2D object and as a 3D object that enters your space, maybe in much the same way that furniture, countertops, and cabinets and cabinetware does in our home that we sort of don't pay attention to, or just serve utilitarian purposes. But
Given its simplicity with monochromatic color and simple form, it has an incredibly complex shadow
yeah,
and color variation.
absolutely.
And it almost reminds me a little bit of like Henshi, and how they would talk about there's not just one color, it
Right.
always is changing
Right.
depending on the light.
Yeah.
And
Well,
Which-
and I have to say, I chose this primarily before, I didn't even read your statement when I was looking at it. I was so
Sure.
drawn to it immediately.
Sure.
I chose it for aesthetics mainly, the idea of all of the colors that were happening in the white, the sheer craftsmanship, the beauty of it, the perfection of this piece. I just was totally drawn to.
Well,
I
thank you.
also am old friends with Jim Terrell, who I
Sure.
don't know if you know him, but
I met him in LA a few years ago.
Yep.
Great guy. Yeah.
that idea of vision and seeing everything and nothing at the same time, seeing only one thing. Like I wanted to be in a room with this piece, have it be the whole room kind of feeling. I really,
I think so too. About his work. I mean.
I'm totally drawn to it now for a different reason after hearing you talk about it, more of the political aspect of it. And that's
Sure,
what
sure.
I like about it. It can be anything. It can be everything. And white is like that. It is everything and nothing at the same
That's
time.
right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And
Yeah.
thanks for including the work in this really remarkable show. I hope to catch it live on the trip up to Boston and New York later in the spring. So thank you.
Excellent.
great. We look forward to seeing you.
Excellent.
Take care.
Thanks again. Bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye.
So the next work is,
Oh,
yeah, we have the,
the reflection.
yeah. So maybe I'll go on this side. And that's going to be better.
Yep.
Okay. So this is Saran Song is the artist. And it's a photograph. And the title is
Mudra Flower Shower, Pink Mimosa.
okay. Is Saran Song with us today? Well, why don't we read?
You want me to?
Yeah, that'd be great.
I'm inspired by routine meditation practice, which serves as a primary medium in my creative process. As another artist might use paint or the brush, my work encompasses photography, video, painting, installation, sculpture, and performance art. Working in a multitude of disciplines allows me to continually test the boundaries of the senses and embrace the breadth, both core elements that inform my artistic path. My photographs present intense optic sensations comprised of vibrant colors derived from nature's unique and incomparable palette to transmit uplifting and healing vibrations through organic patterns.
So yeah, it looks like there's some maybe Buddhist connections here.
Well, it felt to me, like the process of being with her hands in that way, and then everything that's within your body that sort of makes you up. I mean, obviously it's more of a projection onto the hands, but I liked how it felt that the body was encompassing all of these feelings and
Right.
neurons and movements and emotions. And
So it has that meaning of insight where you might have a revelation.
right, or you're looking within
Yeah.
all of in the I guess in the mind and in the body, which I guess is a lot of meditation.
Right. It's a great shape of the hands. It's like hand yoga.
Yeah, I'm not even sure how it would come about unless it's upside down. I can't do it.
And then to project on top of it, it gives the layered meaning again.
And it felt like a piece of a longer story,
Right.
like like a performance piece would be. It felt like it had legs to it. There was more happening. It was just a moment we got.
Great. And then we have below Jane Lincoln. And this is,
January 6th, 2021.
yeah, this is a piece that's titled this from her COVID diary series. And it was, she would do one of these a day. And here she is.
Hi, Benton. Hi, Grace.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. So you can probably see the title, January 6th, and how it might apply to the theme with the spelling in sight. But for me, it also has the meaning insight, because really before January 6th, I didn't realize the number, the seriousness, or the danger that some Americans pose to our democracy. So politics aside, let me explain what Quarantine Diary is. So back in 2014, I started a color calendar. And every day I would take color paint sample chips from Sherwin-Williams and post them as a calendar. And you can see behind me way back, it's kind of dark, the calendar for March 2020. Now, March 2020 began the shutdown for the COVID.
It
So
was
I
a
was
dark
no
calendar
longer-
after all, wasn't it?
It was a calendar.
The dark
And
calendar, yeah.
so I couldn't go into the Sherwin-Williams store anymore. So I had to come up with a new plan. So I began my quarantine diary. And every day, inspired by Roy Lichtenstein. I have his book, Perfect Imperfect Series, and I love his work. So what I do is every month I design a little design on graph paper, and every day I trace the same design on polyester archival film, and then I flip it over, and on the reverse side I color the shapes, and the colors will depend on my mood, the weather, or in many cases during the pandemic, and for this particular work, the news. So it's nice today that today is the last day of March, because behind me you can see the entire month of March 2021. And today is number 379. Doing a study every day came from the artist Onkawara, who did date paintings, if you're familiar with those. When he died, he'd done 3,000 of them. Now, I don't know how long I'm going to continue my series, my diary series here, but for now, it satisfies me. The process of doing it reminds me of coloring as a child. The materials make me think of stained glass windows, which I love, and the repetition is comforting. So we'll see how long I go.
Sounds great. Well, I have to say, I chose this piece for a bunch of different reasons. Aesthetically, I love the way it looked. I love the idea of sight as perspective drawing. I was drawn to the far less obvious, or I should say more subtle aspects of the political answer to Incite for this. There was a wide range of answers in that, but I felt like this really did hit that on the head in a nice way of having it be, that's your day of that day, but it also has the feeling of somebody storming and possibly blood, and the idea of a building and the mall and that kind of architecture, I guess, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
So that was sort of what I was thinking.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I just want to mention that Jane Lincoln has an exhibition at the Cape Cod Museum of Art titled Enough, on a different subject, mass shootings, and that comes starting very shortly. April 8th, I believe, is the first day.
That's it. Next week we install.
Yeah,
Nice.
so we look forward to seeing the installation and working together with you, Jane. See you
Thank
on
you.
Monday.
Okay, thanks, Benton. Bye.
Okay, bye. See here. Now,
Are you doing the two together?
yeah. So
Over
we'll,
here with them on different sides of it.
right, so we'll zoom out a little bit here. So,
Amy?
yeah, this is Amy. Oh, she's joining us. Great.
So happy to see you, Amy.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Grace. Hi, Benton. Hi, everyone. It's been a delight to get to know everyone's work so far this afternoon.
I'm so happy you're joining us. I had such a hard time choosing between your works, and that's why I finally put in two.
Thank
really-
you.
Yeah, so there's this one here, and we'll show the other one in the second, in a second or two, because it's a little bit further away. But would you like to share with us your insight?
Absolutely. Absolutely. My work explores our human quest to use record keeping as a way of making sense of our lived experience and as a way of bringing the wilds of the universe around us into control. This particular work is made out of salvaged 3-ring binder tab dividers and office paper, and in general my work is made out of reclaimed school supplies and office supplies, often things that have been deaccessioned or that have timed out from archives in the public education system. I live here in South Florida as a university professor, and a lot of my work speaks to my overlapping roles as an artist and an educator, and especially as a public servant embedded in a very large state bureaucracy. So this work really invites people to consider the reason for keeping records and the tension between the beauty and poetry of the lived experience of humans, especially teachers and students, and the onerous, sometimes onerous task and sometimes poetic task of having to translate the magic and the poetry of what we do into extremely quantitative terms, often for other stakeholders, as we call them, who might be trying to understand the value of what we do.
Very nice. Well, I'm also in awe of you. I cannot cut or draw a straight line if I tried to, but the peacefulness of these, you know, the idea of using something that is being discarded and giving it this new life, but also this almost Joseph Albers color thing. I love them. And I kept asking my daughter which one she would choose because I was trying to only pick one from each person.
Right.
But in the end, I just had to have both of them. So
Thank you. And sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to gush some more.
I love that you involved your daughter in the decision-making process. My school-age sons help me make aesthetic choices all the time, and they help me determine which things to submit to different exhibitions. And it's
Right.
true that all of these items are hand-cut with an X-Acto knife.
Yeah.
The idea of manual dexterity and the discipline of daily practice and the embodiment of actions being taken by hand is valuable to me as an artist, and it's also one of my priorities as a drawing teacher. And so for you to have appreciated that element of these pieces is something that I am grateful for. I love that. And it also speaks to, I think, to our lived experience during pandemic, everything that Jane was just taking note of about how we mark time and measure days. Those repetitive incremental actions are part of all this too.
And
Absolutely.
one part of it being, they both have a window at the end where you can actually look through if it were to be taken out of the frame.
Mhm.
It gives you this sense of moving through time and almost like an optical viewport. So it gives you some kind of hope that maybe there's light at the end of this tunnel.
Absolutely, that these could be portals into spaces where we can really share blissful experiences with one another.
Well, thank you, Amy.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, moving back here, we have Diane Hines, and she has a small work here that is coming into focus now. Hello, Diane.
Hello.
Look at what a story you have going here. This is a fantasy.
Could you read my statement first?
Sure. Yeah. My colleagues explore themes of the surreal and curious, the process of constructing.
Hello?
Yeah, we're can you hear me?
us? Here, let me.
Okay, you give it a try.
Hello?
Can you hear us, Diane?
Our internet connection.
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Oh, our internet. My collages explore themes of the surreal and curious. The process of constructing images that creates a new dialogue is an ongoing experiment. In my studio, there's always an element of chance and serendipity making these stories come alive. There is no one meaning for any one image. Rather, they exist as a kind of visual poetry meant to be provocative and engaging.
Well, I want to thank Benton and Grace for having me. This has been a long process. A lot of it started with the Me Too generation and being unemployed during the pandemic.
So I started to find old images, which I love, antiques, and ended up with these images and a lot of time on my hands. And an influence really from a teacher at RISD way back when I went to college there. And it stuck with me through my whole life, and collage has always been there. So I'm very excited to show my work.
I love the scale of them and I mean, they're tiny, but they have this sort of epic quality and all of the different scales within
Right.
the
It's about
architecture of
it's
the
about the
piece.
story, the allegory.
Yeah.
And it's not my story personally all the time. It includes a lot of people out there, especially now, like I said, with everything going on. People are so insecure and uncomfortable that it comes out in my work. And
Well,
I'm sure everybody agrees.
We're looking for some support from our kings and leaders to try to help us out of these rough waters. And I
Sending
think,
out an SOS.
yeah, I think the allegory is pretty clear.
Yep.
Well, it's been exciting. And I've also been inspired by Von Bogosian.
Yes. Well,
And I
Barjan,
love the
think
Berta Walker Gallery.
Barjan
of
came right up
course.
to mind when I was looking at your work, and you know, the playfulness again of scale and the size coming through.
Yeah.
Really like
He,
that. And I
he
used to
was
call him
wonderful. Absolutely. I love his work. John O'Reilly, too. I don't know if anybody knows John O'Reilly out of Worcester, Massachusetts.
We'll have to look him up.
Yep.
A very playful artist. But I'll keep cutting and enjoying my work and getting it out there.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Also nice these two are together because the X-Acto knife plays a very
Right.
important role.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Okay.
dexterity involved in making those. So now we have Ro Osborne, and this is a sculptural piece. Let's see Rose zooming in here.
Am I on?
You're on.
Hey,
Hey,
I wish.
Ro.
Hi, greetings, Ben and Grace. Thanks so much for including my work in this show. I was able to see it just a couple days after it was installed, and it was beautiful. My wife and I toured it, and it was really beautiful. Really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Well, thanks for helping install it.
Well, not just my piece, but we got to see the whole show, so it was great. I wish I could claim that there was some hidden, messages or insight, I guess, into my pieces, but they sort of created from my own little private Idaho. My pieces have a contextual mathematical formula. Most of them have a contextual mathematical formula to them. In this one, I have the pieces have incremental. The notches in the locust pieces are incremental, and they are held in place just by virtue of the size of the notch, and the length of the pieces also is incremental. I feel like they leave the glass in suspension. It's sort of a suspension of a moment in time, and that's why I called it the greeting. It seems that there seems to be an implied movement through it, and one is passing the other. Although none of the pieces touch, they're all just held there in place. So I feel like it's sort of like if there's insight, it's just an insight into a specific moment, a moment of suspension.
And I know you have a affinity for relying on mathematics and the way materials will display their beautiful, I guess, symmetry and harmonies when you use a certain formula. And in this case, I guess it's the gap in the wood that is larger and shorter and the lengths of the wood that is larger and shorter, but the uh, the difference looks exponential and not uniform. So I think it's wonderful how you just have this leap of faith into the mathematics of it. And I can see how you might construct it and then put it together and let the physics display themselves.
It oftentimes I don't have an idea of exactly how it's going to display or come out until I start putting it together, which is interesting. I use glass in a lot of my in my indoor pieces, and it's such a strong material. It because of its it refracts and reflects and is somewhat clear. So it just adds a really cool element to my pieces. It's sort of it's what the pieces of wood play against the very flat, straight, plain nature of the glass, and the wood sort of plays around around that plane of glass.
Wonderful.
Great.
Thank you, Ro.
Yeah, thank you for your
Thanks
great
thanks again to you guys, and good luck with the show.
Thanks.
Great. Take care.
Thank you.
So now next is a kind of an extensive installation. And this was a challenge because there were rather detailed directions on how to install it. But it was really rewarding to see it come together. And
Do we have Christine?
uh,
Doesn't look like it.
yeah, it's Christine Chin, and it's called,
Stuffed storms?
yeah, Stuffed Storms 2020 Atlantic Storm Season. It's archival prints on fabric, stuffing, and thread. So the prints are printed on the fabric, and they're prints of clouds and actual storms. And then there's the names of each of the storms embroidered on the hurricanes themselves. So each one is a named storm, and their size and impact is reflected in the scale of each one.
Nice.
Yeah. Should we read her statement?
Sure.
Okay.
We're-
Oh, is
No,
she coming?
no.
Okay. Stuffed Storms is an artistic interpretation of the 2020 Atlantic storm season that is designed to give the viewer insight into the significance of a major climate event. The effects and impacts of hurricanes and tropical storms can seem random and fickle in the disruption and destruction of lives, property, and communities in their paths. However, stepping back and looking at the pattern of storms over time shows how global warming is affecting the stability of our climate, an even larger danger. The Stuffed Storms installation allows the viewer to visualize the record number of storms that spun off the Atlantic this summer and fall, and in their soft, tactile forms, their destructive power is quietly understated. That's pretty much
Yeah, that sums it up.
sums it up. But the contrast of the destruction and the softness of like a pillow,
Yeah,
that is really striking.
very.
And you know, hurricanes from a vantage point of space, they often look almost soft and cuddly.
Right.
But
They're
you-
powerful destruction.
right,
All right.
okay. So we're gonna go to Carmen Shaffer. That's this top one here. Actually, Kristen,
No, that was Kristen.
oh yeah, right. Carmen Shaffer, okay. And this
And we
one,
have Carmen.
okay, great. Zoom right in. The view out of a train window, photograph.
Hi,
And
Carmen.
Hi,
Welcome.
welcome. Thank you. Thank you very much. So interesting to see my little photograph among all these wonderful pieces of art. And this photograph marks my return to photography. I have an MFA in photography, but I had left it for years and concentrated on drawing, mainly because I couldn't deal with the chemicals, because at that time we were doing darkroom work with chemicals.
okay.
So I found myself in a position where I had to travel back and forth on the train from Rochester, New York to Port Jefferson, Long Island, which was an 8-hour trip each way to take care of my mother. And so I decided to treat this as this constant travel as a metaphor for change and transition, emotional change, transition, maybe new insight into myself. So I decided to go back to the camera because it was more convenient to carry the camera than drawings, utensils and pads and paper. And but I relied on my same elements: composition, complementary colors. I wanted to use the changing landscape at the window and the window frame to mirror my emotional changes. And that's pretty much it for this picture. And it's been very successful, and I've started really doing a lot more photography.
Wonderful.
Traveling on a train and looking out the window really is a inspiring place to contemplate life and moving through time and space.
That was a perfect.
I hope that this image sort of too leaves it a little open-ended, that you don't really know. It's a little hopeful, but you're not quite sure what it is. So
Yeah, there's definitely both going on. You know exactly what you're looking at and not at all.
I love that. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you, Carmen.
Thank you.
All right, we have Christiane.
Okay, so this is another cutout from a print.
Called Pourvu. A collage, yep. And it doesn't look like we have Christiane, so I will read the.
Okay.
It all started as a fun exercise of making marks on random fragments of paper with all kinds of objects dipped in Indian ink. Dried orange peels, sticks I found in the woods, pieces of cardboard. Anything that I had on hand that would hold ink. I was playing without the intention of making anything special. As the fragments of paper dried, scattered all over the table, I became interested in the patterns they formed, finding them very appealing. I started to assemble the different pieces into a collage, adding prints that I had previously done. The shapes started to connect, and little by little, Pourvu was created.
Just for you.
Yes. I like the feeling of it also almost being like clothing or something that you could put on. There was still a lot of layers, again, a lot of things happening.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed.
It has a little something like Michael Giaquinto's where you can
Yep.
see the process was probably not prescribed, but
Fun nonetheless.
fun. Yeah,
And good result.
exactly. Great. Pourvu.
Yeah, this one they're gonna need an angle.
Yeah. So there'll be some reflections on this one, I'm sure. We'll do our best. Okay. So,
Yeah, Jessica.
yeah, Jessica looks like she might be with us.
Hi, Jessica.
All right. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hi, great to see you. And it's great to see all this work. My name's Jessica Larva. I'm from Chicago, Illinois. And a lot of my work deals with ideas of perception. So I'm going to read from my statement just a little bit. And so here it is. The central trick of human perception is that it feels like a faithful reflection of the external world. However, our senses are demonstrably limited and fallible. My work seeks to isolate and amplify visual phenomena to create sensory response. and to play with the complexities of sight. So when I say limited and fallible, I'm thinking about illusions, but I'm also thinking about how perception works in our brains and in our bodies. And there's a piece from a book that I read. Neuroscientist Timothy D. Wilson mentioned that our brain consciously is capable of processing about 40 items per second, but our brain fully is able to process about 11 million bits of information a second. So most of our perception in theory could come from within us rather than the outside observable world. And so by kind of looking at visual phenomena, we can kind of figure out how much of what we see is there and how much of it is sort of created by us, by our past experiences. So this is kind of a foray into sight. So picking up, this is a composite image. So this is part of a series, and I went out and photographed hundreds, if not thousands, of pictures of where the water meets the sky, and then stitched them together digitally.
I love this piece, and I was drawn to it from the very beginning as even just color. And then as you get more and more into it and seeing all the layers of the water, I loved it. And I love the way that you have it as a horizontal.
Right. When I went to hang it, I thought
Right.
I had it the other way at first, but then I realized it was intentionally the way you wouldn't expect,
Yep.
which is really unexpected and enlightening.
Yeah.
Very good, very wonderful piece.
I was interested, you mentioned the horizon. There's an artist, Jan Dibbets, who did a Dutch mountain piece where he was kind of interested in how the camera sees different from the human eye. And so he was sort of creating a false horizon. And so in this piece, I was interested in taking those bits of horizon and using that as sort of the baseline. And I mention it here, that viewers often tilt their heads as they're looking at it.
Right.
Harder to see online, but in real life, there's a lot of detail. And by tilting your head, you can kind of figure out the orientation of the pieces. And for me, this is really interesting. Like, I love watching people do that because it brings the kinetic and the visual senses together. And it really gets to the idea that perception is embodied, that it is part of our movement and our vision and those sorts of things. And for me, that horizon too is part of what it is to perceive, that it is a construct that we've made up, that some people see a horizon as like the long horizon, or it bends around the earth. Some people see it as, you know, it's the furthest thing you can see. So it's sort of a sense of infinity, whereas others kind of see it as blocking the rest of the vision outward. So it's sort of like an endpoint of sight. So it's all these things that are partially visual, partially conceptual. And I wanted to take all of these pieces and sort of establish a new horizon. And even though this horizon is not the horizon we're familiar with, we're obviously used to it, oriented in a different way. This establishes a new horizon, like a new way of maybe examining our own vision.
Wonderful. Great job.
Yeah,
I
well,
love this piece.
Thank you for expanding our horizons and giving us some new sensory perceptions to ponder.
Well, thank you all.
Okay, take care. Thank you. This is a work by Jeff Drake. And he looks like he's joining us now.
I'm here.
Hello.
Hello, Jeff.
Thank you for taking the initiative to put on such an ambitious national show. I think this is a fabulous thing for the museum to be doing.
Well, thank you. And at this time, especially, it gives us a way of kind of taking a litmus test of what the whole country is thinking on such a volatile word as insight.
I could explain a little bit about why I'm drawn to images like this, I suppose, to obviously it doesn't need a lot of interpretation, like many other pieces do. I've for my whole life been drawn to the geometry that exists in the environment around us. And it's the color, it's the pattern, the shapes, the composition. You can see pretty much anywhere you go. You just have to look at it. And my concept for this image in this show is, it's in sight, but do we see it?
Right. That's what I was drawn to. Absolutely. Was that you were picking up on the simplicity of form in architecture out there in landscape that most people go right past. And that's always been something that's interesting to me. People who see certain things in things rather than kind of, I don't know, trying to render it exactly. Instead, you have the feeling of this building and the loneliness of this place and the factory and that kind of space. I really like that about it.
Somebody could have walked by this building their whole life and maybe not have seen it until they saw it in a painting, where you take the form and juxtapose them and show the geometry in a painterly way.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Wonderful.
Thank you. And that's my hope, is to, draw people's attention to things that they might not ordinarily notice, but if they see something like this, then, maybe it creates a little more awareness of what's around and what can be thought of, in an aesthetic sense as, it's just another building, it's another smokestack. But when you see it in the right light, on the right day, with the right sky, it can be beautiful.
Well, I'm happy that there's no smoke coming out of it.
Right.
There's one bonus.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. And thank you for the placement. I really loved being next to Jessica's piece. The colors work really well together.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great. We're going to actually, Jessica's and Samantha's, I think there is a commonality.
Yeah.
There's a unfolded book here that, yeah, that
We don't have this. Library.
I know it's this one. This is it.
Oh, this is Samantha. Oh,
Yeah. So this is it folds into a hard-covered book, and they are it's screen printed, and it's called Le Durée. Do you know what that means in French?
I don't know the French, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that translation is, but we can all find it out.
And you may have to go in a little in detail just visually to show the
Okay.
perforations. Well, I'll just read her statement because I
Okay.
don't think we have her. Inspired by the French philosopher Henri Bergson's interrelated concepts of time and consciousness, La Durée charts the course of a single experienced moment as it transitions from stimulus to storage, to memory and its recollection. Each printed page and iridescent passage is a fragmentary map of the mind's eye and a window into the unconscious processes that drive it.
Okay.
I was really drawn to the beauty of this piece as well as the craftsmanship again, and just the follow through with the idea and the tones and the quality and the background of what she was thinking of
Yeah.
when she was working on it. And I wasn't sure exactly how you were going to put it together, but
Yeah. Well, it seems to tell a visual story.
yeah, it's far more interesting in person than in the picture. So unfortunately, you have to come here and see it.
Or fortunately.
Or fortunately.
Yeah, we are open.
But I
So
mean, what I was seeing in the jury was not quite as spectacular as this.
Right.
This is really great.
it's printed on both sides.
Yeah.
And it could be displayed in a number of different ways.
Really wonderful piece.
Yeah, I think there's a lot you could
spend some time in there.
Yeah, you could spend some time trying to decipher some of the imagery, from black holes to the holes in the paper itself. Okay, I'm going to try
So
to.
we're swiveling around.
Yeah, we'll do a see here.
And there's two of Thomas.
Right.
You can get an angle on both of them because they're hard to see
Okay.
straight on anyway.
Right. So let's see if we can do that. As we roll around here, you get to see a little bit of the space.
Do we have Thomas?
So there's two of Thomas. And
Hello.
Oh, here he is. Hello,
hello, Thomas.
Hello.
welcome.
I just want to say, first of all, Thomas, that you had the best packaging of any artist I've ever seen in my life. He had you must have a carpentry talent as well as an artistic talent.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for including the work. As you can see, it does not travel easily, so I had to come up with a way of packaging it. The way that I think about these works as aerial landscapes, I've been playing around with that idea for a while. And at a certain point, I decided to see what would happen if I folded the paper. And this is what's come out of that work. It's a little hard to, actually, it's interesting. If you look at it from that angle, it's going to be different from when you look at it from other angles.
Yeah.
And that's part of what I like about the work, is that it's designed to engage people to look at it and actually move around and see it from different perspectives.
It unfolds itself as you approach it.
Yep.
It does.
That's what I liked about it, was also the sculptural aspect of it as a photography or collage or that kind of a element, but that you had to really move around it. And it's definitely worth coming to see in person because it's really interesting as you walk on either side and look below it and to the side. Really beautiful.
Now, these are just overhead views of different neighborhoods, but they're also photoshopped a lot. So there are satellite photos and also fantasy landscapes, and those are the ideas that were guiding me when I was making these pieces.
Yeah, they're beautifully done. I mean, you know, again, from just how you made the piece and then making it into the accordion kind of feel, the folding, it's beautiful.
Simplicity within complexity.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much. Again, it's a real honor to be included in the show.
Great.
Excellent. Well, thank you for being part.
Zooming in with us.
Yes.
Okay, take care.
All right. We have Norman.
Yeah.
Oh, look at you. Just move the camera instead of the whole thing. That's brilliant.
Okay, this is a piece. Norman
Do we have Norman?
Silva, is that right?
Norman Silva.
This was rather,
Heavy, I'm assuming?
yeah, it was a rather robust piece that was shipped from, let's see, where. Is from Florida, right? I knew it came from afar. And the title is David. It's concrete, steel, and chrome. Concrete, steel, and chrome plated steel.
All right, well, I'll go ahead and read. I don't think we have him.
Okay.
My art is the reaction to the world that surrounds me, specifically to individuals close to me. It is a relentless urge to translate personal experiences into tangible forms. My creations are my innermost thoughts and feelings. Decisions in my art are not haphazard or left to chance, but are carefully thought out actions that attempt to connect, portray complex moments. I want each piece to convey a story that requires thoughtful analysis. I am working toward a language, an identifiable iconography and sculpture. My experiments with materials such as concrete, steel, wood, glass have led me to unforeseen paths. After many years of self-doubt, I now feel comfortable with my artwork and calling myself an artist. And I was particularly drawn to this, I think, material-wise, the abstraction form, the reflections, the really rough versus the smooth. This was very tactile.
I was making a narrative that probably doesn't exist, but I have to say it anyway, because I was thinking of, if it's called David, the statue of David, and how it's such an idealized human figure. And it's interesting that if this was an abstracted statue of David that was a mirror, that it would almost be and what looks like a mirror shape behind it,
Right.
that's not a mirror,
Which could also be the rock,
which it could also be
but
the
in a
rock.
different scale.
Right. Seems to have a lot of paradoxes in there, that the statue itself is actually the mirror.
I also loved seeing all the underneath of the concrete. I live in a concrete building, so that's always fascinating to me, but the feeling of the texture of the concrete underneath,
Right.
like you can see inside the earth.
It was
kind of
left
thing.
raw.
Yeah, very interesting.
Okay.
Wonderful. So we have Kurt Gerheim.
And this is, see if I can get an image without too much reflection here.
This is gesso, foam, and metal coating on paper.
Okay.
I'm here.
Hello.
Oh, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm great.
Welcome. You want to talk to us about your work?
Well, I want to thank you for selecting work for this show of mine. I say in the past maybe 5 years, I've been focused on working with metal coatings. It's an acrylic base with actual metal. And so I've been not only doing 3D prints, but also drawings that utilize both, in this particular case, bronze and iron metal coatings. And then you put a patina on them. Sometimes it's a cupric nitrate, or sometimes it's just vinegar and salt. In this particular case, it was a foam ring that I found in my studio, or I had in my studio, and decided to use that in reference to a friend of mine who made similar imagery, who was not doing well at the time.
It's called Device in Progress, number 83. Does that mean you've got 82 of them at home?
Yeah. You know, I have a tendency, a lot of my drawings focus on my sculpture, maybe various viewpoints of my sculpture. And so titling them, I tend to just say device in progress. So I have about, 80 or 90 drawings of this nature at some places, sometimes at home, but a lot of times they've been sold.
Interesting. So you consider this a drawing?
I guess, yeah. It's I guess it would maybe be more sculptural.
Yep.
But
I always thought sculptors draw differently than painters. They draw more 3D anyway. But
well,
I like the idea of this as a drawing for a sculptor.
I would agree with you. I wouldn't argue with you. But I'm excited about these metal coatings. In fact, I'm giving a presentation here, well, actually a workshop at a national conference coming up on Friday that talks about all of my processes. And sometimes I use gesso and sand onto the paper to give a particular texture. And then recently, as I was exploring this whole workshop deal, I had some copper coating. I used that, which was pretty exciting because it really gets a light green that the bronze doesn't quite get to. And then I couldn't resist, so I bought gold and silver. Now I don't know what I'm going to do with the gold and silver, but we'll see.
Well, as long as you're having fun.
That's it. Yeah.
Wonderful work. Really great.
Thank you so much.
If you find out how to turn lead into gold, let me know.
Right.
Yeah. I understand.
Okay, well, thank you for your piece and good luck with your lecture.
Well, thank you so much.
Okay.